Switzerland, where he lived, and the guys at the border said, you know, you gotta pay a tariff on this thing. He said, I'm not paying nothing, I lost all my money gambling all week, you know. So they lower it down into the Lake Missouri, and they think we're gonna get it back in a couple months, and the cables break and the thing goes down 170 feet to the bottom of the lake. So. Gambling's an expensive hobby.
Telecom, they gamble on telecom.
That is a risky business.
You know what? It is. It is.
What is it? You know? Everything's got it.
Not as risky as some.
Sure.
Pretty risky.
Today's competitive marketplace, though, you always be overtaken. You know, something is always popping up anymore. The economies of scales are changing. It's easier for people to get into things.
You know, this broadband business is just like the voice business, the way it was in probably the mid to late 90s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was talking about someone yesterday.
Yeah.
Someone used to work with Jim. Mark.
That I used to work with?
Yeah.
Jim who?
He asked me if I knew you. Jim, Mark. I'm bad with last names. He said he worked with you on one of the telecom things.
Possible.
Sea Life.
Yeah, I don't know who it would be.
He owns that building on California.
Oh, Yorkland.
Yorkland, that's
I used to work for Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, way back in the day. That's how I wound up in Ventura.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Yeah, I was 24.
Come
on.
Just a young guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, Jim, he's a great guy.
Oh yeah, I really like them.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
We're gonna bring some service to a few of those buildings.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's got that building on the corner of Maine
I
and,
thought about just watching.
and California.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he owns about
So
a
much
third
going on
downtown.
today. It's like
Yeah, he gave me a list of the
nonstop.
buildings where he wants
Uh-huh.
to add connectivity, and it's just like every block, there's one or two.
I like your,
Yeah.
your
Jim's
Christmas
great guy.
look.
It's Christmas.
It looks very seasonal.
Or we got
Wonderful.
3, 4 Christmas parties today, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, grab a donut for you, son.
Oh wow, circles of death.
Jim's one of the guys that struck it rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said you guys were one of the first CLECs here in California.
He owned California's largest private payphone company. And then he owned a long distance carrier, and he sold it. I helped him sell it the first time. And then he went and just replicated the model.
I didn't know you were gonna
And
Here.
then they built it up.
4
and sold
Christmas
it.
parties today.
4 years later. They sold it to
Jesus' last
IFC
day today too, his
Communications.
party at my boss,
And,
assistant city manager.
And then his partner Stan
Retiring.
went and invested in Sun Air Aviation in Cameron
he's
Airport
gonna
when it
go
was
back to
just
school
a small little FBO and a helicopter business. And then he built up that Sun Air Aviation and he sold it to the guy who owned Salem Broadcasting. And then he went up over the grade. His son got out of dental school and he built that business, the Barclay Pet Hotel.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Right?
Yeah, it's like next to Dole there.
Right.
Four Seasons.
I hear that's a good business.
He killed it. And then he sold it.
That's the key, right?
Yeah, no, he had an incredible knack. I mean, those two combined. Jim was very conservative and, you know, just kind of like, yeah, my payphone business kind of puts everything in motion. His exit from that payphone business was absolutely incredible. Just right in the deepest market.
Probably any later it would have been.
On sale yesterday. I was watching some sitcom earlier this week. One of those old hatchback movies. Kids are all right.
Hey, do that?
And the mom was talking to the brother-in-law. It all takes place in the 70s, right? And I guess the brother-in-law comes in with his new Winnebago into the house and everything.
Yeah.
And he's rich, like you're describing or whatever. And he just got into the telephone business. And they were saying, oh, that's a great business to get into now.
Plastics.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and get started. It is 8:34 according to my clock. And so, I think we can go once around the table and on the phone, do self-introductions to figure out, I think we have a good forum this morning. Bruce is down the hall, I'm sure he'll be in shortly. So, Bill Simmons, Broadband Consortium.
Craig Hayward, Laura Einstein.
George Amendola, Cyber Dynamics.
Steven Sawyer, Charter.
Keith Brooks, IT Director for City of Oshkosh.
Steve Weingart, Bridge Communications.
Jory Wolf, Magellan Advisor.
David Lundwell, Abundance Networks.
Sasha Burrows, a fellow with the BCPC and county.
Brian Ganley, County of Ventura.
Brian Chong, City of Moore Park.
Okay, and on the phone.
And Bob
Oh,
Allen.
I'm sorry, Bob.
I'm sorry, I got up.
You're the guy who
Missed your turn.
Good morning, this is Tim Williams with Digital West.
Hi, Tim.
Good morning. Terry Howard with Municipal Broadband.
Hi, Terry.
Morning.
Hey, no, I'm on the student side of the room.
Peter, thanks for joining us.
Gil Deming with Spectrum, good morning.
Hi, Gil. Anybody else on the phone?
Kevin Meeks with AT&T.
Hi, Kevin. Wow, we got somebody from Atlanta joining us today. So we've got a coast-to-coast reach in this meeting this morning. So thank you for joining us, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think everybody's probably seen the meeting announcement, downloaded the PowerPoint. We've got some slides we'll be showing in addition to what's on the PowerPoint and a web site as well, but we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. Let's see. Page down, unlock. There it goes. Don't you like old technology versus new technology? So, in terms of the top topics that we want to cover today, we'll go over the priority areas real quickly. I just want to spend 3 to 4 minutes in terms of updates of those. Talk about anchor institutions and some of the work that we've been doing there in the last month or so. And as it relates to a regional network, we can do some updates related to what's happening in the cities, Oxnard, Moore Park, the county, in terms of where your thinking is and your thought. Talk about the website. I want to spend a little bit of time hearing your thoughts about the consortium. We have in a business advocacy group some 20 years ago, we'd have an annual retreat, and we always asked each other, if we weren't here, what would we be doing? And it's an interesting question. I'll ask you now, and we can talk about it as we towards the end of the meeting. But if you didn't have a consortium, what would you have, or would there be a need for it? And that's always a good way for us to kind of take a temperature check of. Hi, Bruce. Good morning. And Bruce Stensley just joined us, for those on the phone. Take a temperature check of where we're going and the good that we're doing and how we're trying to serve. So, with that in mind, I put this always as my first topic because these are the people paying our bills, the California Public Utilities Commission. There was a map that was released by them back in March of this year, and thanks to the county IT GIS department, they've taken that data from CPUC and distilled it down, and we've been able to overlay it into various communities, streets, neighborhoods. We've gotten this information out to the cities. We've used this information to trigger conversations. A number of the cities have been able to act on it and say, yeah, Brian said, I know that trailer park. I know exactly where that area is. And so it's been good data. We've been able to make some good headway there. One conversation I keep coming back, and we're going to probably need to take it up to CPUC, is when are they going to refresh this data? This data is it's December of 2016, and so. I don't know, I think maybe telecoms have got a requirement to report annually, but we haven't had data from CPUC that talks about whether this is relevant or not at this point. 2 years old, that was really old data. And so as much as this was a snapshot from 2 years ago, I think today we would have a very different snapshot. And so that's kind of we're gonna want to start being a squeaky wheel and get better data that's more timely.
Well, the FCC just ruled last week to eliminate one of the unserved data maps. So we really only have one source left. And that source is no longer funded by nonprofits and those that are doing research. So we're only left with a map of the carrier's self-reporting.
Which is what generates this.
Which is what we have is,
Yeah.
So is that unserved or underserved?
The way it was provided to us, it was unserved.
That'd be anybody that doesn't meet the definition of broadband by the Public Television Association.
Sure.
5.3,
28.
3 years, 23.
So, the data is what it is, but these people are paying our bills, so I have to respond to it.
So, excuse me, my voice is a little cold. We've been reduced to purely voluntary submission data.
Is that in the last, has that been just recent?
last week.
Last week. Interesting. Okay. Any more discussion on this? And the numbers at one point were 5,423 for our county. At this point, it's somewhat less.
Those households?
Yes. The last topic on the agenda is once again the future of the consortia. I do believe that this data is really quite compelling. You know, when the new round of CPC funding coming out, they're getting very explicit in terms of rural communities and rural areas. I mean, that is an area that where funding from CPUC can help and assist, and where the business case doesn't make sense, but yet you do need to connect. And so that's kind of, as we talk about the future of the consortia, that may be a big part of it, is looking at places like Cuyama, Fraser Park, the areas where you just can't get to without funds from an outside source. So. Okay, come on, let's try again. There it goes. Let's get on it. No.
Well, Fraser Park made change,
But not ours.
after the development of the home ranch.
That's true.
If that continues to move forward, depending upon the discussion on wildlife.
That's true. Okay, so on the slide titled Anchor Institutions and Regional Networks, we've been talking about this for quite some time. Sasha has been working closely with the GIS group with the county, and has created a list of anchor institutions. What's in that list?
Fire stations, police stations, hospitals, all kinds of schools, colleges, newly added doctor's offices, all kinds of things that have a large social and economic impact.
Do you have community-based organizations on there as well, like Boys and Girls Clubs or anything like that, or?
Not currently, because we were adjusting the definition of anchor institutions to align with Oxnard and kind of figuring that all out and where everyone stands on what is included in that list.
So this data was provided for this meeting. It was generated yesterday by the GIS folks. It kind of represents what that list looks like in terms of the certain regions. And I think that there's been some great conversations between the county and Oxnard, and where Oxnard's going and wanting to go in terms of the network that you want to create in there. And I mean, the question becomes, as each of these cities engage upon its own version of a network that serves the city, how do we think about the regional need and the interconnects that are going to occur, and how do you leverage the interconnectivity that's possible? And so it'll be interesting to see where that conversation goes, but that's the way things are moving, and we're making some good progress in this area.
Are all of those on that INET network?
No. No, these are, there's some in Oxnard down here, Ventura up here. You know, you get out in terms of some of the other communities. I mean, I think this is kind of the region at a glance, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how it overlays areas on that other map that should.
Yeah, so we're also amassing the Crown, here's Crown Castle, for example, in terms of fiber, we're gonna add the Edison fiber to it. We're gonna put the CPUC GIS data, broadband corridors, this is the Highway 150, taking off from the 126 and coming in through the backcountry and around, so we will overlay what Caltrans says it's going to do in terms of the fiber activities. And then, yeah, the anchor institutions.
So what was the previous slide?
It's the Caltrans corridors, strategic corridors.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so what we did a month ago was provide them with a list of, they were interested in the state roads that would be strategic for them as they do maintenance on it, to put fiber in conduit. We said the 33, the 150, the 126, 101, yeah. And so there now is a statewide map of which Caltrans understands in the next 3, 5, 10 years that they want to be a fiber, provide conduit and fiber to those communities and regions that need it. So.
Don't hold your breath.
Coincidence that Mike Pettit lives along that corridor. Wondering.
So where this is going is, as it converges, and we have a good, this picture is good for situational awareness. It's good for sharing intelligence. Ideally, we'd like to start showing it, blowing up into respective communities and showing these connections, where fiber is, where it's needed, and where we're talking about a certain project with a certain opportunity. So if you have a network, you have red, yellow, green connections, green being, yeah, it's connected, it's online. Yellow is, we're talking about it, we know that, there's a collaboration that's coming together. And red says, this is really unserved or unconnected at this point in time, it's not there yet. This is a great place for all of us to be able to start pointing and participating, in terms of this discussion. And we're hoping it accelerates the whole planning process for the regional network, if you will. It's just giving you a state of mind and awareness of what's connected where and where people can participate. Thoughts?
There is a movement afoot, grassroots as it is. A gentleman by the name of Chris Whitmore, who is a retired senior attorney with the CPUC. Chris is leading an effort in the United States from time to time for a national database of fiber. And I think you have a number of sources of fiber already from Southern California and Crown Castle who really make that available. But it would be obviously to everyone's advantage to have that centralized database of all fiber assets and other related infrastructure assets that could be used for broadband throughout not only the country, but especially be helpful for this particular region. And so, in speaking with third-party providers, new entrants, and entrenched providers, to try to surface data as much as possible, obviously, is the watchword of the day, so that everyone's informed and could know how they might be able to partner with others to be able to use those assets or to barter.
So would that database have dark fiber?
Yes.
Good to know. How far along is he in assembling this and putting it together?
Well, we're starting with the state of California.
Really?
Yeah. And if we are successful here, we believe we will be successful in other blue states. And then we would attempt to make a nationwide effort.
So this is based on, you have to participate. You would have to.
Well, obviously, if you participate, you get perks. Yeah. But then, the Democrats are now in the House, and we hopefully will see some changes in the FCC rulemaking and other things that we've seen lately.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussions about where we're at with anchor institutions. The process, we've got the list, and before the holiday, I would hope that we could get them out to each of the city reps and say, here's what we think. It's just, we've used a standard search to find what it is. Would you validate these lists? Because they're going to appear on the map, we're gonna use it in this way. But if we're missing anchor institutions, let us know. If we've got some in there that you don't view as anchor institutions, let us know. But is to get the feedback from the city that says, yes, I understand, you are compiling this list of potential anchor institutions, and here are the organizations we feel are gonna be anchor institutions that we wanna, track whether or not they're connected or not. And so we'll be looking for that impact, for that input from everybody to validate that.
Right. Question, can someone off the top of their head share what the working definition is for an anchor institution?
I can, not off the top of my head. I have to go back into an email. Do you recall what it is by chance? We were batting it back and forth, and we got there. CQC has one, and it is. I don't have it memorized, but it includes school, public safety, civic, some not for profits, vital. And I can get it out. Let me respond to that by sending an email after the meeting and saying, here is a working definition that we're using.
Yeah, it includes private entities as well, especially those that are community serving. So hospitals could be a private hospital and an anchor institution.
Yes.
I would say large employers not included.
Pretty much that list with a handful of things and other, I assume, education, fire, libraries, and hospitals.
Yeah, libraries are anchored.
I think it might be of value here, Bill, if, a number of these anchor institutions, well, libraries and schools, do share with certain types of funding, police stations, different types of funding. It'd be interesting, I think, to break up each of these particular institutions into, funding sources.
It'd be fascinating.
And to see whether or not this can be something done regionally for all of these entities to apply for like a regional E-rate. And of course, in the case of schools and libraries, cops money, ULC, Shishgap for public safety, and so.
Yeah.
Do we have insight into what kind of connectivity they have at each one of these places at this point?
Sasha, we've got fields in this map for that. We had the benefit of what Louis Fox provided us to see it, and it had who's providing what service in all those school locations. And so, yeah, we're gonna embed that information in the map. When you click on an anchor, we know, for example, the Fillmore school you used, yeah, right there, and Charter Communications is providing Fillmore with that through Scenic. And so where we have that information, we're gonna go keep track of it and add it in.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
So Fillmore High School only has 1 megabyte?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Hi, Tim. We may wanna check on that.
That doesn't seem right, but.
No, it doesn't.
That's what Chrome has something.
I'd be interested in the source for that.
We'll need to check on it.
You just call and ask someone over there or what?
No, it came from Scenic,
No.
yeah.
Huh.
I
Okay,
didn't know that Charter would sell you 1 megabit.
no, I don't think that is indeed the case. We need to check that.
And maybe a typo, it's probably.
I just upgraded to 400.
I have 400, but they said they'd give a gig.
Yeah,
It would.
I believe that probably.
Yeah, but
Well, they
it's-
said it's available now.
It's asymmetrical.
That would be surprising.
430?
Available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
I live on, right next to DCNC.
Right. Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's from.
It was interesting because it just kind of happened.
They'll
For
sell you
residential and business or
400,
just
you'll get
residential?
200.
No, I get 400.
You get
Well, that
400.
was for business.
I test it.
But they have the same offer for residential too.
Since April. Yeah, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I converted to a commercial account in April and they told me it would auto upgrade it, that's not.
Yeah, don't trust the auto upgrade. You got to call it and make them come out and change it.
Hey Steve, do you have the ability to share the adoption rates for your service on residential? Or is
I
that-
don't know if that's something we would release, but I can check on it.
Okay, yeah, no, just curious.
Yeah, I think for competitive reasons, we may.
That's perfectly understandable.
Yeah, I suspect that was a typo, and I suspect it probably went G versus M of service for a school. That would make a lot of sense, more sense. And I know there's a lot of investment in creating out in that area, I think, wood, so I'm not surprised. Anyway, but we'll check on it. So.
Still a mega, you gotta get those kids an upgrade.
Yep.
So, next topic on the agenda, any other questions about where we're at, regional networks, anchor institutions, we can move on? We're making progress, and I'll be very interested as the picture comes together and we start using it as a way to collaborate amongst ourselves.
So I just have one question.
Sure.
Since you have all of the cities listed up there with the county, is there still the momentum to create a cohesive, kind of group between the counties and the individual cities? I mean, I know the cities are doing these studies, and the county's doing a study, but, there was talk about doing some kind of JPA or something like that. Is that still something that the consortium is pursuing?
Momentum exists in the civic world as long as we don't have fires and shootings. I mean, and the Thomas fire was a classic example. We had momentum last year until we were disrupted. We had momentum more recently until we were disrupted. And every time a disruption occurs, we've got to respond to that disruption as a region, and we do. But it takes away momentum, and we have to let that subside, and then momentum will pick up again. And I think part of our job is just to try to be writing it out and continue to be the advocate despite the momentum, the things that occur. Yeah, this is the holidays, we're coming off of some traumatic events, the momentum, people aren't thinking about it today. Nor should they be. So we will be pushing hard to get the momentum back in the first quarter of this next year.
Just the reason why I asked the question is, a couple slides ago, you had asked, in my sense is the consortium is looking for ways to, continue on and also create a scope or a mission based on a reaffirmed identity. So is going into like a gigabyte and smart city type of environment, is that part of the consortium, or is it strictly looking at, the pieces individual and with the cities and the counties?
I don't have that answer. We can talk about it as we get to that slide. Yeah, I mean, we've got the stakeholders want it to be. We're gonna be a stakeholder-driven organization.
The anchor institutions, does it include like the fairgrounds?
I believe it does.
I didn't see it on the map.
I didn't either.
I know that they had evacuees staying in the barn area at the back of the place in RVs, and none of them had internet access.
Right. Disaster recovery, you would think we should include insight into that.
Yeah. No, and I know the state views that as an anchor. I mean, there's funding going in here to provide.
Right,
better
there's a whole
service.
separate statewide initiative to light up fairgrounds. I'm not sure what the status, but.
But there's also other places that serve as disaster recovery area centers, we should make sure that they're all identified, not just the fairgrounds.
Would you take a note of checking whether the fairground's on that list or not?
Yeah, you said there were trailers that weren't hooked up for internet during the disaster for the fairgrounds?
About 40 of them, people who had horses and other livestock that needed to evacuate, brought their animals there, and the fairgrounds allowed them to stay.
Because I know that we as Charter Spectrum hooked up the fairgrounds fairly quickly for the first responders there at the fairgrounds, so I'm not quite sure.
I'm just not sure in the back. Emily probably knows the answer to this question, actually. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Back in that back corner, where the freeway kind of wraps around, and it's like really kind of desolate back there. I don't think they have a Wi-Fi network back there at all, so.
Okay. But, I mean, were there first responders back working?
No, these were evacuees.
But that was something else, is the first responders were having trouble because there wasn't any bandwidth really.
Yeah, a lot of their radios now use IP, and basically all the towers got burned down on the hillside, so they've lost all their connectivity.
So are you talking about the most recent fire or the Thomas?
Yeah, the most recent one.
That was actually a conversation that came out of something with the base, with the Trident exercises, was the different networks that all the first responders are using.
Yeah.
Well, they're separate from commercial networks.
Right, of course, but they were looking to figure out some commonality that they could use as, yeah, exactly, interop or like a clearing mechanism.
Yeah, that conversation continues. I think AT&T and FirstNet is one of the options, but you know, there's adoption. Some people are adopting, others not, and you know, it's different levels of implementation. So it is a problem. Okay. Any other discussions? Regional networks, anchor institutions. I think the actions I've got is to come up with a working definition. Is to share. We have come up with it, but to share it with everyone. Great discussion. So municipality roadmaps is, and we have some great participants here in terms of where you're at and the progress you're making. What we basically did is come up with this term about a year ago. Our first summit talked about a municipality roadmap, and it was just to get the various municipalities talking about assets. You know, what fiber do you have, and then come up with strategies related to those assets, and to be part of this conversation of how do you collaborate with one another. And so where are we in that progress, in that process? So, you know, City of Oxnard, City of Ventura are working with Doria and Magellan and doing all of these things. Other cities, I think, are moving in direction as well. I wanted to just maybe, if there's any updates cities might have in terms of where you're at, what you're doing, thoughts, things you would want to share, we welcome the input to the conversation.
Well, as you mentioned, Magellan is in process. We're, I think you're gathering data from the surveys. We have that data. We're looking at maybe doing another presentation to the chamber to just drum up some notoriety for it and maybe get some input from the businesses. As far as the city, we have a new city manager. We're still waiting for a finance director, public works director, assistant city manager.
Wow.
So we have a lot of
major
change. We have 3 new council members. So there's that transition. So the leadership is kind of in flux right now, but coming back from a lack of leadership for at least a year since Thomas fired. Kind of putting, for lack of a better word, fires out. But once, like you said, next quarter, once things settle in, I'm able to get some FaceTime with the new city manager and talk to him about this initiative, because the remaining council members are still want broadband as a buzzword because they're hearing it from their constituents. So it's still a priority, at least to do a study. And then along with that, we're progressing on the tracking system upgrade, which is core to the broadband and fiber master plan.
It's interesting in Ventura too. We found out quite a bit about your INET. So there's some rediscovery about assets, and then there's some new discovery about some new potential assets, significant underground abandoned or to be abandoned assets. And so it's kind of like a unexpected gift.
You're part of the gas line?
Yeah. And so there's, you know, more opportunities than originally thought once you start delving into what's underground and what cities own. You find all kinds of interesting opportunities, and Ventura and Oxnard too are both good case samples of that.
And we've had some incidents. The recent fires took spectrum down, and so we realized, well, we need more of a. And we had spectrum at public safety. We had AT&T at City Hall, and it was a manual failover. So we're doing some fixing there, so it's automatic. But also we had a fiber cut. We had somebody cut our fiber, pulling up old sewer pipe, and so we realized the INET goes right by that location without connecting it. So we also found there's some dark fibers in the INET that are not usable. Well, no, not usable.
Not usable.
Like we're trying to light them up and they're not lit up. So you know, 20-plus-year-old fiber. So we do want to do a full inventory of what's available in the INET and also leverage that for some of our sites.
I think in the case of both cities, I think the interesting thing is, and the most challenging, I think, is getting the departments that typically are siloed to actually work together. And when they are effective at working together and collaborating with one another on a new utility, just as if it was urban planning or if it was public works in the right of way, whatever it might be, things begin not only to surface, but actually people actually start pointing out opportunities and sharing information that typically someone in IT wouldn't know. And so IT becomes really a partner and it gets embraced by other departments. And the thinking about broadband, which is being championed by those people in IT, becomes the watchword for everyone in all the departments. And when that happens, that catalyst, that change agent starts to open up a lot of new thinking and incentivizes some thinking about, well, we do need to set aside some budget and we do need to spend some time thinking about this and growing this for economic development and other benefits within the community. But it's challenging. It takes a while to make that happen.
I mean, it sounds like it's just a policy decision and implemented.
Well, you just said it's just a policy decision.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
This is unjust.
The dilemma for Ventura as a resident is there has not been a policy presented to council for council to vote on. I mean, this has been a conversation for 4 years now. And recognizing the changes in Ventura, this is why I was pushing to get things put forth to council before October. So,
Yeah.
here we are.
I think in Ventura's case, what you're hearing, it's leadership and policy.
That's exactly what it is.
And the leadership issue could be resolved in the first quarter. Even if it's policy, the nature of bureaucracy in all municipalities, at all levels of government, is stovepipes. And one of the, what I am thinking about in terms of the summit this next year is to draw attention to this. Broadband is not IT's problem. Broadband is planning, it is public works, it is everybody's problem. And yet the stovepipe nature of these organizations, all organizations as it relates to municipal government, state government, and especially get the federal government the same way, more so, it's the stovepipes. And it's hard to have that crosstalk, it's hard to have that collaboration inside. And it takes leadership, and if you don't have the leadership, it's almost impossible. You gotta start the political leadership, and work your way down into the administrative leadership. But we've got to figure out, I think this could be a whole summit on this topic alone, and the transformational leadership required to have this kind of innovation, in your community.
Well, Oxnard in particular is driving an initiative to reopen the acquisition of Southern California Edison streetlight poles within the county. And I think Keith firsthand can tell you about lack of leadership or stovepipes or.
It's hard. On the internal side with the dig ones and joint trench and all that, a policy doesn't produce participation. How many P's can I put in there? A paper policy doesn't produce participation.
Well put.
But I've seen people reluctant to even show up at the meetings to people telling us in advance, oh, we're doing an interchange, we're digging this area, there's a developer doing this. So we've seen the cultural change start to happen already, which is great. So people have to reorient their mind. George says not temporarily, but it's a permanent decision to go down this road and continue going that way.
And the results are usually slow to come.
Yeah.
There's cities like Brentwood, California, that had a dig once policy put into place in 1998, and no one saw results from it until 2007, 2006. And Sonic came in and blew in a gigabit network across the whole city because they had conduit in place already. And so it's just a nice early clear vision of something good that they decided to do.
Yeah. We're getting input now from Public Works and Development Services on projects. that we didn't get before, but we don't have our resolution in place yet, or adopted, it's just being written and reviewed, and we will, I think we'll get there, but the fact that they're already voluntarily saying, hey, we're doing this, wagon wheel, we got conduit, and we required this amount of.
A lot of developers are already doing it.
It really starts, obviously from the city manager's office and possibly even from city council, although council comes and goes and, their interest, weighing, whatever. But internally, without all of that, it's really, you can start with IT and public works, especially public works transportation, working together and starting to work off of a traffic signal network in most cities' cases, if they own a traffic signal network. And fortunately for Ventura and for Oxnard, especially Oxnard, owns a significant fiber network which is fairly well designed already to support all the traffic signals and materials, which are built along commercial corridors, which automatically become, a service network for businesses and anchors. And obviously opportunities in Ventura and in Oxnard for looking into public-private partners to assist the cities in marketing and in maintaining and operating these networks, which I think is the case for both of these cities.
So internally, while we're getting these things bidding letter P in place, we're seeing a big push from the sensors that are coming to every aspect of the organization, public and private, public safety, public works. We're doing a big expansion of community cameras. And there's a big push on the public safety side, a lot of work with fire department and their sensor data. Public works is gonna be the location where most of the sensors are going, so water meters, any kind of smart routing we're doing with Google. So the departments are starting to come to us, and we don't have that underpinning fiber backbone in place yet. We met with the community practice group down in LA last week. Look at you, you weren't there. And it was fascinating, the guy from, the CIO from the city of Las Vegas spoke, and they're doing a big camera project as well. We build and design our own cameras, they do theirs too, but with a lot of money. We're doing ours with metal boxes, they've got custom street lights built with camera and LED lights built in that also offer 5G and Wi-Fi. And they're doing heat maps overlaying locations of cell phones that are in an area with crime maps in the area to show our regular contestants of Wi-Fi are also in the same areas of these crimes that are being committed. And they've got a little yellow light on the light also that when they're dispatched to a location where one of these street lights is, the yellow light will come on the street light. That's the closest proximity to the cell phones that have frequented these higher crime areas. So they've got a clue as to maybe I should start looking in this area.
So the gangbangers are gonna start shooting these things up?
Maybe so.
Get
We've
rid
seen
of the
a
witness.
switch from the public complaining about Big Brother to them coming and begging us over a couple of years for community cameras.
The pendulum swings.
It swings, and we went from 20 and we got a grant for another 60 to put in now, so we're approaching 100 cameras in the area, and you need a backhaul for that, right? And then all the other technology can hang off of that too. So we use 3-in-1, county uses 3-in-1, I think just in public works, and that's sort of a band-aid for where you need to go with real data. It's peripheral porting of potholes, goodness, the P's are proliferating this morning, in the perimeter of your city, because no one's gonna take a picture of a pothole in where it's really busy. I'm not trying.
Once you start on that part,
It's alliteration. Oxnard Boulevard, they're not gonna report a pothole because it's gonna be too busy, so there's sensor data available from Audi and BMW and the higher-end car manufacturers through their internal car networks that can show you here's where you've got a pothole in a busy area, rather than somebody taking a picture and sending it in. Great, but I think the sensor growth is going to be a big impetus, a big push to get these underpinnings of broadband networks completed. So people are starting to have light bulbs come on.
This is the conversation that we need to keep having. I mean, this is, forget priority areas. I mean, this really is where the conversation needs to be, and that is, what is this smart city going to need? What are the apps that are going to be involved? What are the technologies going to be involved? I mean, and who's doing what, and how can we share? I mean, this is really the vital future. So, that's good. Thank you, Pete.
Well, it's good that the push is coming from outside of IT finally.
Yeah.
They're starting to say, oh, I need this, it's gotta happen. Because we've seen the sensors spread out everywhere, people, and there's no smart city about it, right? It's just a lot of sensors being deployed.
I think the other interesting transformation, I think Keith and Tim might be able to speak to this, because they and their staffs are going through some sort of a metamorphosis. Every IT organization, when it starts looking at community-facing applications, which come from communications, especially fiber and wireless systems, are now immediately impacting the community, where before they used to just serve a help desk and a server room or moving applications to the cloud. They're now influencing the community directly. And I think what I've seen in both cases is both departments now not only are embracing other departments and working collaboratively with them, that they're almost becoming the smart city champions in the future for urban planning for these communities, even though they didn't go to school for that.
Ryan, anything you wanna?
I would just kind of piggyback on that point and speak to an earlier suggestion that it is more than just policy. And as Dory mentioned, IT responsibilities, and this is true of all industries, but the roles are changing. So, for example, about 20 years ago, there was a big push, which is now implemented, that police departments have a review of new development. We're looking for things like defensible spaces, security plantings, you're worried about someone jumping over that wall, put some bougainvillea in, it's pretty, and no one will ever cross that wall. But that's not part of police officer training. You can't just take a police officer who's been on the force for 20 years and teach them about landscaping. Similarly, when we hire IT folks on the public side, and I've been on a few boards, I've never asked any of them about the development process, about how to plan for things on a 10-year horizon, or how you can not really know the timing of it, or that you can spend 200 hours on a development and a recession hits and it will never get built and you just throw away 200 hours. So it's not just, hey, we want this to happen, it's we have to build the internal infrastructure higher for that skill set that we don't have. And I think that's just one other way to look at that's why it takes so long to do. On the Moore Park side, we're still making slow progress on our RFP for our broadband plan, so we can take something to council and say, hey, we are hiring an expert to tell us these are the things that you need. And for us, we're looking to broadband deployment as a tool for economic development. So we're going to be focusing on that. The other areas where we've seen a lot of benefit from the consortium here is increasingly we are engaging in talks with ISPs about entering the Moore Park market. I know Digital West is on the phone. We had a real good conversation a couple weeks ago, and what made us kind of feel good about it is they asked a laundry list of questions, and because we've had these conversations with others, we basically could answer 90% of the questions immediately. And some of it was good, some of it was bad. You can't, we don't have a lot of above ground utilities as a newer city. We just don't. We're not gonna put up new poles for that. But we can give the information out quickly. We've got a site visit for another ISP on Monday, actually, that came through this group. So that value has really evolved in the past 6 months for us. That we're here, ready to play ball, and we're going to find someone to take a swing pretty soon.
That's great. Mr. Ganley, anything you wanna share from the county's perspective as it relates to municipality progress and strategy and broadband? If not here, from maybe one of your prior lives?
I think there's a lot of progress going on, here in the county, and it's exciting to be part of. We're certainly happy to be working with Sasha on Consortium, and we're looking at Magellan as well, to bring Jory and his team on board to help us, move a little bit further along.
Yeah, it's, we wanna create a seamless, unified approach, the best we can, to what's going on.
Now, speaking of seamless,
Yeah.
and I wanna get back to streetlights again too, the Caltech approached us about the seismic array using dark fiber. Did they contact anybody else? No?
That's interesting.
So they have a group of scientists there that use dark fiber to detect fluctuations related to earthquakes, and it can give you a warning seconds to minutes in advance depending on the size of the quake for the feedback they're getting over that larger array. So they're looking for as large an array as possible. The trade-off is that you've got to have dark fiber. It has to be unlit. So if anyone's willing to weigh the cost benefit there, we provided them with what we had available, and they're looking at it, and they haven't gotten back to us yet. But I'll see if we can spread that into some of these bigger areas. They say they can detect the difference in a truck going over buried fiber and a tremor that's happening, or a precursor to a really large quake, so you might get a 30-second to a minute notice off of an early warning system to put together. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll pass the Caltech info on to you. The other thing is the streetlights. I sent an email out to most of us, I think, that are on this off of Bill's email address list, and then a separate email. I've only got a couple people locally that have signed up and say they want to be part of a group to petition CPUC with some help from Magellan. Is that something people are interested in? Tim's on board.
Do we need to be residents of Oxnard?
I don't know.
I think it's a regional, I think Oxnard's interested, but I think we as a region are
Maybe the
interested.
cities as institutions to participate, right?
We've been having conversations with CalSLA, which is the Streetlight Association, a coalition of 42 cities. We're also working with the Energy Coalition. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting this afternoon with them. And the idea here is to get cities in Ventura County to sign on and to commit to be part of a coalition to petition the CPUC, letting the CPUC know that should cities get the opportunity, as has happened in the past, it would spur economic development, it would create new jobs, it would enable cities to implement smart city applications. Cities would take over maintenance of these poles, which are an important public safety asset and assets for communities in general, for power and other very important utilities, and would be a more guaranteed future and would maintain them better than what's currently being done by Southern California Edison. So there's a lot of value here, and there's a lot of good justification for cities to own this. And the only reason that Southern California Edison shut down the program initially was that they realized that there was revenue opportunity from small cell attachments, and maybe that's going to go away, and maybe that'll provide new incentives for them to reopen the program. But the idea here is to try to get that to happen sooner, especially because we don't know what the future of small cell will be. Since the legislation, or should I say the rulemaking at the FCC is being challenged.
Might I offer a question to everybody? If you went out and took a survey of people on the street and talked to them about just what you're talking about right now, what percentage do you think might even have a slight understanding?
0.
That's the problems that we're having, okay? And with modern technology, see, every media source wants to be global. We had the fires, yeah, we had a lot of people coming in here, okay? Because they're looking from a dollar and cent standpoint to get viewership so they can get advertising dollars. How do we get this information out to the general community? That's what Keith and I just briefly were talking about. I mean, I'm working with all the schools in the Oxnard Union High School District. Well, they each have news programs that they're doing. Why not do segments where we're bringing this into the general, I'm not talking about from a technology standpoint, like we're talking about now, but what is the goal? Because we're gonna be looking at council people who are representing these people. So I think that's one of the ways that it might get done possibly a little easier.
Well, it would be, I mean, I think you're asking a bigger question. I mean, we're just touching upon one particular public topic. I mean, there are hundreds of public topics that need to get out to the community and people need to understand. People don't watch community-based TV anymore, you know?
Yep.
Because they think that's just a council meeting, or it's a rolling scroll of, you know, public services or public service announcements and whatever, and it's not meaningful. They do actually still listen to radio, which is good, but, you know, in the case of all cities, and I'm not just fingering, you know, Oxnard or Ventura, but in every broadband effort, you need to reach out to the community and you need to educate them what's the value of broadband, because we need to tell city council the community wants this, and that there's a need for it, and that the existing broadband sucks in many different ways. So how do you reach the community? You know, and how do you get how do governments effectively market, educate the public? I mean, how many of your communities have local newspapers? I mean, those have disappeared too.
Why not, Sasha, could we agree that the future of communication is what we call, most people now call a cell phone? Because it's a device, okay? And what happens is that things are changing. When you say how to do it, let's start a little roundtable discussion that we plan for, where we're gonna have different topics, and we sit around and have a couple of people. Now, this is being live streamed, but it's available right afterwards. Now, if it's something good, people are telling people, share this link. Go here and listen to it.
I think the problem is the format isn't interesting enough to engage the populace, and really, we've been doing a lot of market research. The thing that is working for us is like very short, sort of Instagram style meme looking videos that, you know, have some information and have some quick impact quickly that will grab them in as they're scrolling past.
And what you're doing is trying to utilize, and when I say this, a focus that I've had for the last 6 years has been hyper-local, not global.
Sure.
Okay? And not too many people are doing that these days. For us to be able to start something with an important topic, sure, there might be other things.
We need to keep moving, but
Okay.
Emily arrived late and didn't miss the self-introductions. I know you've probably got some thoughts on this
I
topic.
do. My name is Emily Barney, and I'm working with David at Abundance. And I'm certainly will defer to the gentleman in the room who know more than me, because don't live this and breathe this every day. But all of the initiatives that I've heard are focused on business and economic development. And so my suggestion is, if we're not even talking about bringing fiber to the residents, we probably shouldn't get them excited about fiber, because we're not planning on giving it to them yet. And so, and I think we're really missing the mark. Obviously, business development is good, but we have a whole lot of people, and access to the internet becomes a social equity issue. And so we shouldn't expect the public to be interested, because we're not even thinking about them.
I agree with that to a certain extent. As a matter of fact, I agree with it completely. But I don't agree that we shouldn't reach out to the public and make them aware of this if they don't get it in their homes, because they're gonna get it through smart city applications, they're gonna get free Wi-Fi in the libraries, and city facilities, and the parks, and entertainment venues. So they are gonna benefit from this.
I also think that the information will drive
desire and push them to push us to give it to them.
And
That's what I
launch-
actually think, we should just
Free,
give
free Wi-Fi.
residents, that's what we're doing.
Free Wi-Fi and launch pages are the best, I think, tool that municipalities have these days to
Well,
get these short messages out.
Are we talking about offering free Wi-Fi in communities?
Yeah.
I would strongly recommend you talk to the city of Santa Monica about how that works.
That's
for
pretty
them.
strong.
What I've heard is that they wish they didn't do it, because it really attracted a vagrant population.
Well, you and I can have another conversation about that. There are some people who felt that way.
Okay.
And we did do things to mitigate that. So we turned it off at the libraries at 10 o'clock when the libraries closed.
Got it.
And when the parks closed at 10 o'clock, we shut it off at the parks.
Hader, do you have anything you wanna say from a Thousand Oaks perspective? We talked to all the cities, I know you were on the line, I didn't wanna just ignore you, but,
No.
you know.
Well, we had a good meeting with you and we, you know, when we met for coffee, so, we just need to follow up on that meeting and see where we go with that.
Yeah. It was, we did have a good conversation, you know, they've got the benefit of, having an awful lot of fiber already up there in the Conejo Valley. I reached out, Hader, to, Westlake, and, the mayor is a friend of ours, Ned Davis, the new mayor there now, and, he has the action to have certain conversations between he and your council, and based on, you know, I'll be talking to him in another couple of weeks. But this whole idea of a smart Conejo Valley the seed's been planted, and you may start hearing people talking about it based on what Ned's gonna do. And so I wanted to let you know, close the loop with you, that we're gonna try to do what we talked about up there. And build a bridge there across the county line to your neighbors to do some things in the Conejo Valley. Anything else from a municipality real back? Steve?
I just wanted to go back to something that you had brought up. Did you say that Caltech is looking for dark fiber?
Yeah.
Just dark fiber in the ground?
Do they light it up?
No, they keep
So
it
This works even though it's dark?
Well, I don't know what type of signal they're sending through it for
Yeah.
detection.
Yeah.
But they said it has to.
Do you
be
have
dark.
a contact?
Yeah. I can send it out to the group. if you-
That'd be great.
Actually, one other thing, from our park standpoint, we're already in escrow, so to speak, on the utility line, but when you're ready to submit to the PUC, I can't commit 100% because it is a policy decision, but we could probably write a letter of support or, get on board the coalition and that way, although we're not a member of it.
Okay, so that's, what we're hoping to do is get signatories to just say, yeah, me too, I'm interested in this. There's no commitment to it.
Overall, we already are buying our streetlights, so there's no need for us to be in the coalition, but we can throw our weight behind, this is a good thing for communities, this is a good thing
It
for
doesn't have to be
California.
a municipality or a county, it could be an anchor institution that's signing on, or elected official, a business that feels that this is the right thing to do. So they're just a signatory, and some cities are hiring consultants to do this for them directly with Edison. They can still sign on too and say, yeah, we still back this idea.
You're buying the streetlights for Edison?
We'll have them early next year, by January, February.
Okay, we've got 25 minutes left. Let's cover as much as we can in the time that we've got left. Website's next, Greg?
No.
So basically, our current website is nothing much more than a pamphlet, and so we wanted to turn it into a library. So we're going to change the design, put a lot more functionality into it, have the videos of the summits, those kind of things. We don't need to go through each one of the sections now, but it'll help the general public who happens to stumble upon it get better educated. It'll help everybody in attendance here today be able to access all the consortia data that we've accrued over the years, bring some of the FCC government data together, so it actually will have some depth to it. And so, smart cities definition, the participants, everybody here, news and legislation, those kind of things will constantly be updated. Sasha is going to work on getting a system for doing these updates consistently, so this thing could be a viable resource.
So, somewhat related, but not exactly related, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna hijack your agenda, this will be short.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering, what kind of role can this play? I mean, now that you're gonna embellish on this, I mean, what kind of role can this play, for a regional effort and to be able to draw or pull grant monies and funds into the region? I mean, all the cities, we're working with Oxnard and Ventura right now, but, you know, every city's looking for money. There's no doubt about that. And how do we bring grant monies into the region? And regionalism really does help do just that. And so there's a website, there's a presence, we've got a brand, and with that brand, can we look for petitioning for economic development money, for repurposing, possibly CDBG, looking for, in some cases, rural RUS money, and others.
When there's social equity money as well.
Exactly.
For underserved communities.
Yeah, sure, that's great. We can do a listing of funding sources and those kind of things on there.
But also the branding, you know, this is who we are, this is what we need.
Yeah.
This is the imperatives that exist.
And, you know, the search engine optimization campaign and all those kind of things get us listed so that we are seen by a broader set of eyes against a broader set of keywords.
It's a good thought. We have, to answer your question, don't know. I mean, it's a good question, and we ought to develop answers in and around, and.
Because every one of these cities is gonna attempt to do this individually, and I think that there's more power in the group.
It's to show that enterprise perspective to the region.
Grant funding is actually going towards that collaboration model. They don't, often they won't fund one organization, they look for that collaboration and for a long-term plan, not a one-time funding opportunity, so.
So I'd like to try to raise this for future agendas and see what maybe we could do, even create a subcommittee or a task force on that or something.
Sure.
We do grant writing at my company, just saying.
And for the general public, information, you know, the little blips, the social media things will play off things that'll be found within and vice versa, so we can start getting a broader presence and a little bit more stickiness to put some sexier things out that the general public might catch on to. Because Bob made a good point, is that, you know, the general public, whether or not we're gonna do those services for the general public, they are going to vote in the policymakers that will initiate the changes that everybody will benefit from.
And so, I hate to put Spectrum on the spot here, but I'm just wondering, you and I lead many different lives, and I know that you have responded to regional approaches, networks and things of that sort. Does Spectrum have any kind of an interest in this region, per se, to do something?
I mean, we're already involved in the region. I mean, with each city, we provide, broadband services, 1 gig service throughout, almost the entire footprint of the entire city. The new market for us, obviously, is small business and medium-sized businesses, but, we're already out there in the marketplace. I mean, looking at the map of the unserved areas, we've identified and we've met with a couple of the cities to look at that map, and, we find that they're mostly trailer parks that, again, we have, our plant pretty widely dispersed throughout the cities. Not knowing exactly what each city's problem is, and whether or not the problem with one city is similar to the problem of another city, that needs to be determined.
Well, okay. What we hear in our community forums is Spectrum's across the street. How come they can get it and I can't get it?
And has that been communicated to us?
We understand it has. We have not done it ourselves directly.
Have you done it, Keith? Because
Well, I had to do it for our police department in Oxnard, where we knew there was without before. So we completed our survey. We've got over 500 responses, and the story is exactly what Jory's saying. I'm paying too much, I'm getting too little, and right across the street, there's another choice and I can't get it. So,
I know that as a consumer, if you call Charter and you ask them for service and it's across the street, not at your house, it's very, very difficult to get someone to figure out how to get it across the street. I've had people be very aggressive with the sales department and get someone to run a cable across the, an aerial cable across to connect a building, but it usually takes quite some effort.
Yeah, if you bring those issues to me personally,
Sure.
I'll look into it. Working with cities often have, it's right across the street, but our fiber goes this way and across this way, and the city won't give us the permit to go through, or it's too costly to go underground, or there's a moratorium. So there could be a whole series of issues that we know.
Was your point more regionally though, like regionally connecting cities?
It was.
Yeah. Spectrum probably has a lot of the fiber between cities too, to connect their own networks. So there's right of ways and channels and dark fiber and all kinds of things.
So, Jory, will take your point about the website and the fact that it could be a tool of which we talk about the collaboration in very meaningful ways. I'll put a link out. This is kind of beta.
Yeah.
And so in the next Monday report that I put out to everybody, I'll put the link out, and if you want to just go through it, review and comment, feed me those kinds of things, this is going to be an ongoing topic that we continue to work on. And as I said, this is just a first cut. We're throwing something against the wall, but I really am inspired to the thoughts of how do you make this a regional tool that's not just static, but it's something that reflects the conversations that are occurring here.
Especially as an educational tool. Every city says, well, Magellan's put together educational materials and one-pagers and things of that sort. We hand them out to cities and say, here, this is what you should communicate. But if they had something that was permanent and that residents throughout the entire county could continue to go to over time and make this sort of like a watchword for community broadband.
Yeah, if you have content, maps, anything that you guys want to contribute to this, obviously the more robust it is, the better it is. If there's any sections you see that should be represented or not, or anything that would help improve, make the site more effective, we appreciate that contribution.
Without pairing this though with an outreach and social media plan, it's not gonna go as far as we hope.
Agreed.
Well, for sure. So we have that.
But that's what I'm saying, if we had something, then everybody, all the city's Facebook pages and Instagram pages and Twitter can refer to it.
Exactly.
But there needs to be a plan.
Yeah.
Like a social media.
A cohesive communication plan.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking for something to rip off, the Clean Power Alliance on the electric side put out a very good kit to all the member cities, which we used, and you had basically much higher quality content than we would have done internally on that. We were able to do it within a couple hours, and we have our marching orders, our dates of this information, website content, newsletter stories. It was all pre-done, but they did a very good job of that.
Thank you. Okay, shifted to our last topic, and it's just about just feedback about the consortium itself. Where we're at, we're looking to continue on into the first quarter of this next year. But after that, we're gonna have to re-up our funding. And the funding from CPUC is tightening up a bit. I think we're gonna see much more focus on the rural areas, the areas that are unserved. That's the primary interest of CPUC as it relates to broadband. However, we've got all of these other things, municipality roadmaps, regional networks, the whole smart city discussion we've been having, digital literacy, all very, very important topics. And so to the extent that we can pivot, diversify, keep this conversation going and meaningful for everybody in the room, I'm interested in any thoughts you have and how to steer us. And I think it's a given we'll be reapplying to CPUC, but this is the time I think that as we look into 2019, we're going to want to do a deep dive in some of these other areas as well.
A lot of the anchor institutions, or lack of a better term, they cross over all of our local boundaries. So libraries, education, police, fire, sheriff's department, energy. I'm probably missing a couple. They don't, what?
Husband.
hospitals, there's some more. They don't belong just to our one county or city. They may have a local, so there's a need for the collaboration if we're gonna do any grant applications or try to leverage any of those institutions or entities, businesses as well. They don't care where my boundary ends and Tim's begins or the county's begins. And it's the citizens, they don't care either. They don't know where they are, what city they're in, what county they're in. They just know it's not happening at that time.
Right. Especially if a disaster's going on.
Especially during disaster, right?
Right.
So, one of the things that I think is missing, well, first of all, I think everyone would benefit from having some sort of a database where they share their assets. So, ultimately, eventually, you're gonna have a middle mile loop here in the county, and that middle mile loop is going to connect all the cities, and the cities hopefully would share in that middle mile loop, connected to two diverse routes to internet pops. And the idea is, we created a group in the Bay Area, which was founded in the city of San Leandro. They meet monthly, and they also include BART, so your regional transportation partner. They include all their utilities, East Bay Mud, and PG&E, and others. And when you get all of those people in Caltrans, when you get all those people in the room, we've now seen that they're trading fiber and trading assets, and connecting one another, or helping to connect and extend one another. In this case, it was to DAC in Oakland, but I mean, the same kind of thing can apply here, but you just think you need to expand your fingers, your channels into these other partners. Ventura County Transit has a lot of money, grant money available for transportation and intelligent transportation, and Measure M money and other kinds of things that a lot of municipalities, they go through all of your cities, and they would be an incredible partner, I think. You could trade fiber for them on some of their rapid routes. They could trade fiber with you, get you connected regionally. I mean, we need to look at some of these, cooperative efforts.
Yeah, transportation, that's the one I forgot to mention. TCTC, they've got money they want me to spend and I can't spend it. And a lot of these are end user driven. It's Wi-Fi, or it's a surveillance, it's a security project that goes regionally. It just has a component locally.
There's a non-P word, that's why you can.
That's awesome. Well, so for example, LA Metro gave Santa Monica $3.6 million to light up 4 rapid corridors within the city, and it just so happens that he moved the rapid corridors onto major boulevards where obviously we could use fiber for smart city applications, for intelligent transportation, parking, real-time parking, directional signage, and many others, public safety, HD cameras, and Wi-Fi, while at the same time connecting businesses and neighbors. $3.6 million that the city didn't have, but it got through transportation.
What's a rapid corridor?
Where they stop every 5 or 6 stops rather than every corner. And then, so, in turn, what we did was we gave them local fiber, so that they could, we could hold the light green. So we implemented signal priority.
It's a good trade-off.
Yeah, so they got schedule adherence, which is big on a lot of money that they get from the Department of Transportation when their schedule adherence goes up.
I think that's the thing, we have to be clever. We have to look at all assets and all resources and try to figure out a way to move this forward in a clever manner.
Yeah. But I think there's some people that we need to bring in, if we can get them to come in. They'll win too.
Well, it'll be an ongoing conversation, and I'm trying to feel the best way to peel this onion, you know, in terms of getting really to the heart of what we're talking about. I go back to comments I made at your Oxnard digital literacy forum that the charter hosted for the community. I believe the last mile is taken care of. I think technology is going to take care of it. You know, we've had the conversations. We know where the maps are. You know, within months. You know, that's not the problem from a broadband connectivity standpoint. The problem is this conversation, this organization of municipalities, this collaboration at a regional level. That's a hard problem we need in digital literacy. What do you do with it once you're connected? Those are the problems that are important and we need to solve. And as constructive and substantive as we can get in that conversation is going to accelerate that problem solving. So,
I don't think that there's a problem to solve. I think we have to build the highway.
Yeah.
And there are just people lined up waiting to get on it.
Storming, forming, norming, and performing. You know, that's the process. Storming is, we've done a lot of that. Now we're into this forming and norming. And it gets, you know, we gotta make decisions and figure out how we're gonna do this, and then we get to performing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we need to look at our partners too, and see what they're doing. I mean, Spectrum's done a great job of updating the bandwidth for residents, and in a lot of cases, small businesses too. But for the business climate to grow here, we need a gig plus, and so.
We need more than one provider that does it.
And we need more.
Any other comments on this topic? Feel free to talk to me on the side.
Yeah, I think we need to be a little more forward thinking than just looking at the near term. We're focused on, you know, some brush strokes. And a lot of the things we're talking about are probably within 2 to 3 years away. But what's going to evolve past 5G? You know, are these networks that we're considering now going to be able to support those? Because once 5G is deployed, they'll be talking about 6G. You know, almost as quickly as it's implemented. So these networks are going to have to be robust and you know, support networks for 20 years down the line with future, whatever it is, mesh or small cell or, you know, satellite, you know, some hybrid mixed in with that. You know, we're not talking about autonomy at all with vehicles. That's coming very quickly, and it was very interesting to me to see from the summit, the speakers that were there. I know a lot of people were just kind of glazing over about it, but it's a very serious market. I mean, just in the middle mile transportation delivery in the next 4 years, it's going to be $180 billion marketplace worldwide. And we're at ground zero here in California. So I think we need to be factoring those into these discussions as well, because it's a real driver of consumption.
The models are changing. In doing this prep, the speaker prep for that particular activity, I think it was a guy from Contra Costa was saying that they're trying to figure out what to do with their city when they don't need parking garages. That all these autonomous vehicles will keep moving, and you pick them up and it's like, people moving. You know, they just drive by and you let them off and they keep going and pick up over more. If you don't need to have your car, you don't need a parking garage. You know, it's a completely different model to think about, and yet they're willing to spend the time having that conversation and thinking about it. People moving, moves of transportation. Interesting.
I have to give you a lot of credit for bringing those speakers in. I mean, that's really looking forward.
That was outstanding. That was truly outstanding. I thought that the emphasis on transportation, whether accidental or deliberate.
Accidental.
Well,
No, take credit for it. Take the credit.
It was really good. Thank you very much for that.
It was fun. There are no coincidences. Okay. Any other topics for the good of the order before we adjourn? It's been a great conversation today.
So we'll do third Thursday in January.
Yeah.
Have a great holiday, everybody.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much.